When I hit this with the putter, I said,
watch, I hit it with a putter, which I don't normally do, and I'm about to miss it with all the other faster discs.
howdy y'all, we are out here for part 3 of our 3-part series. We are closing it down with a big one. I've been very nervous about this one with it upcoming, and that is drivers only. So I think the slowest disc I have in my bag is a sword, a West Side sword, and I think that's an 11 speed. Fact check me right here. Yeah, so is a sword. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fantastic time. We're going to get out here, play the front 9 once again at Civitan Park, John LeMaster. It's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to it. And guys, I'm excited. Excited and nervous. Mostly nervous. With that said, let's jump into hole 1. Hole 1 is a textbook shot to open things up for us. Nothing really to worry about on the fairway. You're going to throw a simple hyzer for you left-handed backhand players, avoiding the sidewalk on the right and the parking lot on the left. On hole 1, I'm finally getting to use the Raider that I enjoy. I'm using a flippier Raider or more understable Raider that I have. It's a bit beat in because I have the chance, if I do turn it over, it can flex back. But it's going to fly just like I want it to, land inside the circle, and give me an opportunity to look at a birdie. The trouble is I don't have a putter, so I'm putting with a sword for the majority of this round, and as you can see, putting outside the circle, or edge of the circle, is tough when you don't have a putter. So I'm just going to tap this in, take my 3, little disappointed, but at the same time, what can you do putting with drivers? Hole 2 is one of the trickier holes on the course, coming in at 358 feet. It is a doozy. You're going to make your way down the fairway, sloping just right, and going eventually down a long tunnel, avoiding a huge chasm on your right. So this is probably the shot I was most worried about with this driver. It's really tough to make this thing have some touch because drivers are going to want to hyzer out if you don't give them enough power. It's why it has that bladed edge. So I try to actually put a little juice on this to send it straight, but like I said, it's a driver and it hyzered out pretty hard. In fact, it hyzered so far in that I only have an option to try to rip something out, and you're about to see, yeah, there it is. Literally no look, it hyzered in so hard because when you're throwing drivers, you have to hit them hard if you want them to do successful things. The other tough part about drivers is on these tight tunnels, it's really hard to get them to flex out or do anything they want, so I'm having to opt for a hammer, and I, once again, don't have enough room for a driver to flex out. When you're in these tight tunnels, mid-ranges and putters are key. You need to let drivers have room to air out what they want to do. So it's a rough look, followed by a rough look, followed by another rough look. Not able to convert though, and so I'm just going to tap this in and take the bogey on this hole, which makes sense because it's a really tight hole to just have drivers on. You go from one of the harder holes on the course to one of the more attackable ones. Hole 3 is a simple forehand shot if you have that, or a slow turnover with the backhand, but you're just going to make your way out this very short tunnel, eventually finding the basket out on the right. Speaking of shots that make me nervous, trying to hit this little gap with the driver was a bit nervy, so I'm going with an enforcer here, but I kind of want it to hyzer out, so I'm just going to try to give it enough juice to get through the gap. Almost hit that tree there, and then I just wanted to fall down. Right as it get outside, I wanted to fall down. And it did fall down, but it did push me a little long. If you watch the putter video, it's a little closer than that one. But putting with a driver is going to make those long putts a little tougher. Nailed it. Felt pretty lucky to get this bird. Hole 4, probably one of my favorite holes on the course. You can either play the big forehand, or you can play something that turns over slowly, and you'll find the basket down on the right once you clear these trees. The nice thing about when you pull out a bigger disc is that you do open up options for another line. There is a big hyzer line out to the left, which is what I'm going to go for. And because I threw a disc that has more power needed, it can go a bit farther, you can look at different options. So changing your discs can present you with some better options, and honestly couldn't be more thankful for this. This is really close, and even putting with this driver, I feel pretty good about grabbing this bird. Bang, nice and easy, trying to reinvent and find new lines when we're using bigger discs. At 393 feet, hole 5 is a doozy. Fairway slopes down to the right, and you want to avoid that mess there on the right, but the basket sits in a little alcove in the back. Now, usually I throw a mid-range here, so I'm pulling out a driver, but I'm actually going to try to send it straight because there's trouble on the right. I flex this thing out, and it soars, y'all. This thing went so far, honestly, way farther than I wanted it to. And you might be a little confused, where are we looking at? Where's the gap that I saw in the other videos? Well, normally we've been landing right there with the gap to the right, but for this video, we're actually all the way down here. So we're gonna see what options we have. In fact, there's a little walking path straight ahead of me that allows you, once you finish the hole, to walk to hole 6. And I thought, what if we just try to go over the path? So I throw it up through the gap and once again, let it fall in because I'm throwing drivers really short. This is just a highlight of the walking path, and what do you know? I was parked. I feel so good grabbing this 3, especially for the weird route we had to take. Hole 6 coming in at 250 feet. There is a lot to avoid on the right, but this is an island hole. So if you miss the island, you are going to be playing from a drop zone just outside of the rocks. But don't worry, it plays longer than 250. Remember how we talked about bigger discs? So playing a driver, I'm going to try to swing this way wider than I normally would, but I didn't get it wide enough, and so I'm a little worried about this coming in, and yeah, it skips out.
I actually, when I hit this with the putter, I said, watch, I hit it with a putter, which I don't normally do, and I'm about to miss it with all the other faster discs. And it just skipped out.
I'm headed to the drop zone. I'm putting with a driver, so I had no confidence for this whatsoever. And what was the unconfident putt? I missed short and left, of course. Really trying to get my confidence back because I don't want to take a 5 on this hole. Bang. High and right, said, I'm getting this putt. Hole 7 has the most options of any of the holes so far. You can play something overstable to the right, understable to the left, or stable and shoot it right down the middle. Eventually you make your way down the fairway and down the hill to the basket. So this is another example of playing a bigger disc opens up new lines. I'm actually opting for the forehand here, and I'm going to try to bring it nice and low because I'm trying to match the slope of the hill. But I get it a little too high, and so it's going to crash down and give me a huge flare and start rolling, and that is not good. I didn't play the slope of the hill well, and honestly feeling pretty lucky that it didn't roll OB over there with that forehand line. And once again, looking at this putt, trying to focus because grabbing a birdie from here would feel amazing. But I left it short, and so we're just going to tap that in, take our 3, walk away. Not feeling bad about this one, not great. Hole 8 plays at 255 feet, but it's uphill the entire time, so it's going to feel a bit longer. You're going to have to navigate quite a few trees to make your way through to the green, and there are some guardian trees, so get ready for some fun times. So on a lot of the forehands, I've been trying to let it die out, and you can even do that on backhands. I'm throwing this up there enough, just trying to let it fade out, because if you don't give drivers enough juice, they just fade out. That's what happens to a lot of people when we throw drivers, right? But man, did this thing fade out really well. Oh, I was shocked when I got up here and got to do this. Satisfying birdie, but I just let the disc do what it needs to. On hole 9, you got 2 choices. You have the gutsy line to the left. It is shorter to get to the basket, but a lot more trees, or you can play the safe hyzer out to the right. It's just a big hyzer trying to dive into the hill before landing near the basket. So here I'm trying to hit the gap on the right, but I'm playing my understable captain because I wanted to flip to flat and ride straight for a little bit. I do get it up there, it flies high, straight. I didn't try to juice this thing because if I did, it would go super straight and not hyzer out. So guys, when you're using drivers, don't be afraid to let them hyzer out, but you do need to hit them with some power or else everything's going to hyzer out and you're going to hate drivers in your bag. It's all about finding that relationship on throwing drivers with enough juice to fly, but understanding that it's okay to rely on that hyzer finish, on that big sharp fade, or even play those skips. But I wouldn't suggest putting with drivers. You should definitely stick to putting with putters. Unless the second guy's putting. And if the second guy's putting, well, putt with whatever you want.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for this video. Honestly, fantastic that with putting with drivers and all of the struggles of, man, like just trying to control the speed, and as it landed on the green, like, I mean, we're having flare everywhere. There's a big reason that we approach with approach discs and putters and not with drivers. But yeah, so that wraps up the throwing pieces, but surprise! We are actually going to have a fourth part of this series where we break down kind of everything that happened and look at, hey, this is what we learned. And yeah, just a chance to learn and reflect and I think unpack stuff that we couldn't do in each of the individual series. So look for that next week. Thanks for guys for coming out while you're here, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So, but for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.